Today I want to take a look at the PowerShell command get-command. As simple as this is, I think it's a vital one we should all know about. Get command allows us to explore what commands are available on the console. And it's really fundamental when you start working with third-party modules and adding more features to your environment. So get command will enumerate the commands available on the system. And here we actually have a handful of examples numbering all the way up to 16. We'll walk through them one at a time. We'll begin with example 1, which is simply typing in get command, the alias for which is GCM, and we'll check that out, see how things look on the output. So if we have a PowerShell console, and here we're running ISE 5.1, if we execute get command, it enumerates all the commands available in the system. Screen scrolls rather quickly, and we have a table result coming back. You can also type in GCM. GCM is the alias for get command. Simply enumerates which commands are available on this particular host. Get command list imported uses the parameter to only get commands in the current session. So this is a little bit more narrow about things that are actually available and have been imported and are active in the current session. So it's a little bit shorter, right? And here we're going to see a handful. Kind of depends on the usage, the functions, things you may have invoked already. And so this is more dynamic, fluid. As you do import module, this list will grow. One thing we may take a quick look at is to do parentheses.count on both of these. So parentheses.count, of course, will show how many rows are in a table. Execute the first, get command count for the entire system, 6,500. List imported, only 411. So the imported is a reduced set showing the items which have been imported to the current console, the current run space, the current session. Example 3, get commands and list them in order. So here we're sorting by noun, format table, group by noun. So we'll go ahead and take that as something that focuses on the noun aspect. And remembering, PowerShell commands are named verb-noun. Verb-noun shows the action and what we're performing the action against. So here we're sorting them by noun or grouping them by noun. Maybe that makes it easier to find what you're looking for. You want an XML command, you want wsman cred SSP, maybe wsman generally, maybe WMI. Like what type of noun, what type of object are we wanting to work with? This could make it easier to go through that and locate the commands that you need. Maybe you're working with Azure Key Vault and you're looking for that very specific noun, and there's 3 different commandlets that you could use with that noun type. Coming on down to example 4, get the commands within a module. I think this one's fantastic. There's some good stuff here that you have a particular module, you're learning it, exploring it, what's available. Adding the dash module parameter essentially creates a filter so that your source property is matching to which module's been specified, and that narrows down the list of commands so that you can go learn and explore more of what's available within that specific space. Here we're looking at the out-of-the-box security and utility modules. You can use a comma in the center to provide 2 different modules and have multiple results set, and that will show all the commands as a way of learning the module. Next, we want to get information about a single commandlet with example 5. So here we're going to do get command with a single commandlet, execute that, and we get back a little bit of detail, what version number and what source did it come from. That can be helpful to go learn about other commands that are in that same module as a way of essentially going upward from one command to its parent module and then coming back down to learn all the other modules available. For the next example 6, we're going to get the syntax of a single commandlet. So here we're looking at the name of the commandlet, the arguments, and then dash syntax parameter, which is going to come back and tell us a little bit more about how to use it. So if we execute that particular example, highlight the line, press F8, we come back with the usage. And here you can see things that are required parameters, optional parameters, what data types they are, if it's int, if it's uint, if it's string array, what type of parameters we have, regular string, if it's required with the path. So this is a good way to see the command line usage with dash syntax and learn a lot more about the single command. In our next example 7, we're going to get dynamic parameters. So here we're focusing on the PS drive cert colon. So this is a virtual drive that tells us about certificates on the system. And the dynamic parameters that the certificate provider adds to get child item. So get child item enumerates the files within a folder. It can be very helpful in navigating a lot of different folder space. If we're creating a PS drive provider for cert colon, and this will tell us about certificates, so this would be CER, PFX, things in that area, and it's going to add dynamic properties. But which ones are being added? How do we learn more about this PS drive provider and the things it can do? So we're going to go ahead and define the function by highlighting the function definition and press F8. That simply puts the function in the background. Then we're going to execute the function with the commandlet get child item and the provider cert colon. So what is the PS drive cert colon having beyond the basic get child item features? And it's going to add a couple of things: expiring in number of days. Interesting. Okay. DNS name, SSL authentication, code signing cert, and a document encryption cert. So a little bit of properties about how that certificate's used, when it might expire. That last one's very interesting because that could help you get in front of any renewals and say, I've got an old certificate on the system. How do I go ahead and extend it? So beyond things about like the timestamp and the file name, these are additional properties that the PS drive provider cert colon will add to the base command. The base command here is get child item, and it's extended with additional properties. Really cool way to learn more about PS drive providers. Number 8, get commands of all types. This is going to include executable files in the path environment variable. So really interesting one because it may let you explore your path environment variable and things that have been included in the path. Get command with an asterisk. It's going to come back with a lot of different data that will include your PowerShell commandlets, but also executables that have been included in the path. So right here, we're getting a lot of output about exe files that are in C Windows System 32. So these are all different things you could type in on the console and expect them to execute. Very interesting way of learning what's possible in the console beyond only PowerShell. This goes further than PowerShell to include executables in the path. Next, example 9, get commandlets by using a parameter type name. Here we're going to use auth colon and parameter type authentication mechanism. And that's going to come back with a lot of different things about remote PowerShell sessions, new PS session, test WSMan, and the different things that have an auth parameter that is using an authentication mechanism. So some way that we need to log in, and you're sort of discovering, well, what commands use this particular type of input? Here's the input I'm expecting to have. Well, where can I send it downstream? What could I pipe into? So when we're piping command to a next one to a next one, we want to know about those types of parameters. And this is very interesting because we can allow the parameter name to, what things might be labeled. But then we also add the parameter data type, and that's a real hard match of what type of input it can receive. So if you're working with strongly typed inputs and want to know what's possible to execute next, this is a great way to learn what commands you could use next in your pipeline to receive downstream. Next, we're going to take a look at example 10 for an alias. So we'll clear console, get command name dir. That is an alias for get child item. So if you have an alias and you don't know what the full name is, this is a great way to expand the alias. Then we'll run the same thing with a dash syntax, and that's going to provide the name of the command only. And let's get syntax from an alias. So the syntax along with the standard name of the alias, and this is going to provide a little bit more detail about the usage of the commandlet. Example 12, get all instances of the notepad command. We'll highlight this, F8. And we actually have 2 instances registered here, C Windows Notepad, C Windows System 32 Notepad. This can be different if you're running things like Notepad++ and Notepad Replacer and Notepad version 2 and some of the higher, more premium versions of Notepad executable that your system might have. So get command notepad all, format table, We want the command type, name, definition. The type here is application because these are all executable files. So really cool way to learn about something that's on your command line and where did it come from? What is it, you know? You may have other commands that are on your system and want to execute those. So I could do something like calculator, and it says calc. There's one of them, and here's the definition for it. So if there's a command that you use a lot, this might be a good way to explore where it's coming from. What's the source of that particular command? Next example, we're going to look for the name of a module that contains a commandlet. Kind of interesting, similar to what we did earlier with exploring modules. So you have a command and then you execute .module name to learn where did it come from. And then you, from that point, could explore other commands in the same family from the same module. Moving into example 14, we have get commandlet type, output name. So we're looking for something that provides a very specific type of output. What type of result sets are coming out of the commandlet? So here on our results, we have a lot of different things like test PS session configuration file returns a Boolean. Test path will return a Boolean. A suspend job returns an automation job. So this is kind of learning the return type of certain commands, which I think is interesting because some things like start process, a lot of people use start process, but they don't really do anything with the output. They just echo it into the console and that's the end of the output. You could take that output, the process object, and then monitor the process, make other changes to it, sort of receiving the result of the start, which begins something, and then using it later in your scripting. So knowing the return type of a command might let you dovetail that downstream into using it later. So very interesting way to learn the return type of different commands. Next example, we're moving into 15. Get commandlets that take in a specific input. So this is the reverse, going the other direction. What commands can I give a certain type of input? So this parameter, we're looking for network adapters and providing that input parameter type. Like, well, what commands out there take the parameter type of a network adapter? Well, you can set one, enable, disable, rename, restart. These are all the different functions you could run once you're given a network adapter as an input type. So if you're working with a certain input type and you want to know what can I do with it, what commands can I modify and change with, really good way to learn how you can modify things. And finally, example 16, we're going to use the parameter fuzzy matching, and that is coming in, commands not recognized commandlet. Not recognized on host 5.1 and ISE, but if I go to the latest PowerShell 7.2 and execute the exact same command, we do get results back. So just keeping in mind which version of PowerShell host we're working with. Use fuzzy matching does a kind of phonetic similar matching. We are missing the letter A on here. It doesn't have the A. It's sort of an abbreviated version of get command. And that's trying to match as best it can other things that are similar. So we do end up with a get command, find command, show command. It's in here, but it also provides some other items that are similar or close enough based on fuzzy matching of the string we provided. So if you're sort of guessing what the command name is going to be, use fuzzy matching might help you to explore things that are similar with some phonetic nearby kind of sounds like or looks like fuzzy matching. So that includes all 16 examples of get command. Great way to explore what's available in your console. Thanks for watching.